Middle and Inner Temple, which are where our lawyers, the barristers, people who appear in court and plead for people, where they train and then where they practice. And you'll see a bit more of that later on. Just a couple of words about the garden. If you know your Shakespeare and you've read Henry VI, then Shakespeare sets the scene which began our Wars of the Roses in the gardens here. Somebody on the York side picked a white rose, somebody on the other Lancaster side picked a red rose, and the result was about 100 years of civil war in this country. So you can imagine that happened here, although I think Shakespeare was using a little bit of fantasy there. Now, you're standing in front of the Middle Temple Hall, and this was built in the 17th in Tudor times, and in fact Shakespeare and his men insisted it might be with by the time that the next lot of buildings in the next court were being built, towards the end of the 17th century, after the great newspaper, daily newspaper in this country started, it was called the Daily Courant, spelled C-O-U-R-A-N-T, and that was published at the other end of Fleet Street. You'll see a plaque towards the end of the wall. And by 1728 there were 4 national newspapers, daily national newspapers being published in this country. And the Times, that started in 1785, very proud of this fact, because it's the only one that's actually survived all the way through the centuries. It started as the Daily Register. And if you buy the Times, a copy here, if anybody wishes to see it, they still call that bit of the paper where they put the obituaries and, you know, the court details and all that kind of stuff, they still call it the Register, I think in a kind of throwback to how things were. Before he became Lord Northcliffe, he was actually Mr. Harmsworth, the Harmsworth brothers, Alfred and Harold. And in the 1880s, they started a magazine called Answers to Correspondence, which was exactly what you can imagine it was. People wrote in and then they gave the answers. I rather suspect, of course, that they wrote the letters from readers as well, because that's what usually happens with them. And this was very successful, so successful that in 1896 they decided to go into newspapers. And they bought the then almost bankrupt evening news, completely revitalised it, used a lot more illustrations, made a lot of money out of it. And so in 1896 they decided that they would start a new newspaper, the Daily Mail. And they'd been over to the States and seen what kind of newspapers you had, and they borrowed lots of your ideas. So the Daily Mail, he described it as a penny newspaper that only costs a halfpenny. And it had banner headlines, it had lots of human interest stories, it had serials, it had good coverage, that women would be interested, that kind of thing. And that became a great bestseller. And the Daily Mail is still going strong today. At the end, before we finish the walk, I'll tell you a little bit about how I see British newspapers today, and the Mail being one of them. But the Mail was a big success. The brothers also bought the Times newspaper, which has been through the hands of all sorts of people since 1785 as Times. Now this is Johnson's Court. You probably see a sign there saying Dr. Samuel Johnson lived here. He also lived in a house in Goss Square that we'll be going to have a look at the outside of shortly. But this was where, in the early 18th century, they started publishing the Gentleman's Magazine. and Johnson had the job of parliamentary correspondent. Now this was quite a challenge because actually Parliament did not allow any reporting of its proceedings. A bit like not having the Bible in English, you know, it was not deemed suitable for us to actually know what they were talking about. So Johnson used to make up the speeches and then write them in the magazine. He used to describe it as the Senate of Magna Lilliputia, as in Lilliput, you know, in Gulliver's Travels. And it was said that what he wrote was so much better than what they actually said. They were quite pleased that the system would carry on. Enthusiastic of pubs and company of his friends, etc. And he undertook, probably Rash and people he had working for him were up in the attic there, and they would find words, write on slips of paper. Johnson would write the definition. And some of them, you know, are really famous. The one about oats, which Johnson said was a grain which in England was given to horses, but in Scotland it sustains the people. He wasn't very keen on Scotland. He'd been there and didn't like it very much. Cucumber, a dish which should be sliced thinly, dressed with oil and vinegar, and then thrown out as good for nothing.